So it's that time of year again, the time to start habitat improvements. Every year, it seems like there's an endless debate over which is the better method, hack and squirt or hinge cutting. I'm going to discuss both methods, and unlike most videos that you're going to see, I won't tell you have to do one way or you have to do the other. I want you to educate yourself and form your own opinion. My opinion is that both methods have their place and can be useful in specific applications. So let's get into it. Let's start with hack and squirt. Hack and squirt is a method of cutting into a tree and then you squirt herbicide into that cut. The herbicide slowly kills the tree. As that tree dies, more sunlight is allowed to reach the forest floor, which allows for growth of the cover and natural browse. Hinge cutting is a practice where you use a chainsaw, you cut about 75% through the tree trunk, and then you pull or guide that tree down to the ground, leaving some of the tree alive, which creates instant cover and browse when that tree hits the floor. So the first topic I want to cover is the safety of both methods. Initially, hack and squirting is pretty low risk. You're placing a small cut into the tree, then spraying the herbicide and letting the tree die slowly. So a selling point that a lot of people use to push hack and squirt is that it's completely safe and there's no risk of being injured by that tree compared to hinge cutting. But what a lot of people leave out is the long-term risk of injury from hack and squirt. So think about this. You're killing a tree and leaving it standing. Depending on the size of that tree you killed, this could pose a huge risk. When that tree is completely dead, it's going to eventually fall to the ground. This causes a risk for injury for anyone who may be in the area at the time that this tree decides to fall. Dead branches could also fall from this tree at any time, which means that each tree that you hack and squirt could potentially have multiple risks for injury. That's not to say that hinge cutting is completely safe either. Hinge cutting can also have risks for injury, especially when done incorrectly. If you select a tree with dead branches, you run the risk of branches falling in your direction as that tree is falling to the ground. If you're making your cut incorrectly, the tree may twist and not fall in the direction that you planned. If you make your cuts head high, you greatly increase the risk of injury from the chainsaw itself. Placing a chainsaw in front of your face is never a good idea. I always make my hinge cuts waist high. Now let's talk about the ease of both methods. Hack and squirt is a very quick method. You make one small cut into the tree, you spray the herbicide into the cut you made, and move on. The tree then dies slowly over time. You could hack and squirt hundreds of trees in just a few hours by yourself. On the other hand, hinge cutting one tree can take a few minutes, and pulling it down to the forest floor can require a decent amount of effort. It is also highly suggested that you never hinge cut alone in the woods. Now how about the results of each method? When you hack and squirt, the tree dies slowly from the top down. As the top of the tree dies, sunlight reaches the forest floor and promotes growth of cover and browse for the deer. But this process takes time. The tree may die over a period of a year, then the regeneration will have to begin. The growth in the forest floor can take years to produce the necessary cover and browse that the deer are seeking. When you hinge cut, the tree is pulled to the ground, creating instant cover and browse. The sunlight is allowed to hit the forest floor and regeneration can start right away. Also, a proper hinge cut can allow the tree to continue to live for several years after you've brought it down. The final topic I want to cover is maintenance. Both methods will require future maintenance to promote continued usage by the deer. Hack and squirt will require less maintenance initially, and that can be a huge selling point for this method. After you cut and spray the tree, you just wait for the tree to die on their own. The maintenance that most people don't think about comes later on down the line. Once a tree dies, they're eventually going to fall to the forest floor. This can clog up that area and limit the deer movement. You'll have to come in and clear the fallen trees or wait years for them to break down and decompose naturally before the deer will start to use that area again. I've seen deer avoid bedding in areas with standing dead timber that otherwise would have made perfect bedding areas. I believe the deer can sense the fall hazard of that dead timber. This area had great potential for bedding, but was covered in standing dead timber. The deer would travel through, but would never bed. This year, a majority of that dead timber fell, causing blockages all throughout the area that I now have to go in and maintain to create travel corridors for the deer to move freely. That's going to be a separate project and a separate video. This standing dead timber wasn't too much different than the results of hack and squirt. So what maintenance will you have with hinge cutting? A good hinge cut is going to live for years after it's brought down to the forest floor, creating browse from the tree itself and the surrounding area from the increased sunlight. The biggest maintenance involved with hinge cutting will be the browse that sprouts from the tree itself. The sprouts will eventually outgrow the reach of the deer, growing 6 to 7 feet tall in just a few years. Those new sprouts or branches can then be hinged themselves, giving you multiple hinge cuts from one tree. This will create a second regeneration of cover and browse. But another good maintenance practice for hinge cutting is just to walk through the area each year and make sure it's still clear enough for the deer to move freely. I hope this video helped to educate you on both methods. Like I said, I didn't want to tell you that either way is the best way of doing things. I think both methods have their place. Not all trees are good for hinge cutting, not all trees should be hack and squirted, and not all properties need either of these improvements in the volume that I'm seeing them occur. Make your own educated assessment of your property or consult with a habitat professional. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, guys. As always, make sure to contact us for the habitat solutions on your whitetail property. Also, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment on this video.